You talked about Patrick Graham and Robert Leonard. You also have a lot of defensive players who are free agents. Is it a priority to bring those guys back, or what are your thoughts on those guys?
Yes, it is. We want to keep our team together. So John's working at it. We're going to do everything we can to keep our guys in the fold. We need every one of them. So hopefully we'll be able to get that done.
Obviously, Tom Brady is the big voice when picking quarterbacks. I know that, but Mark's talked about that. But I have a question. With Chip Kelly, how much do you rely on your offensive coordinator when you're telling me? The reason I'm asking, I had a general manager say to me, they like Will Howard. He goes, but if Chip Kelly was my offensive coordinator, I'm going to listen to his voice more than mine because he knows him. I'm just curious, not Will in particular, but how much does Chip's voice matter to you when you're evaluating?
Tremendously. Everybody's got a voice in our program. Working with John is the primary relationship that I need to work at, and because I think that the relationship between the head coach and the general manager in the NFL is by far the most valuable and the most important relationship. And I spent all those years with Johnny Snyder, up there 14 years working together. You would never have known who was calling the shots or who was making any decisions, or you couldn't tell the difference, because that's a marriage that we need to make successful. And but that's just to me, it's a high performance mentality. He's using the people that have experience and have wherewithal and have something to offer. And Chip Kelly is a primary example of that. Tom Brady is the prime example of understanding what the position's all about. So that's not like some special way of thinking or something new that came to mind in this situation. That's just the way you compete. You either compete or you're not, and then you use everything that's available to you. And so that's why the relationship is so important, and we have to be in concert on everything that we do, and we will be. I'll guarantee that. And so, what you should look at the other way, how fortunate we are to have a coordinator with the kind of background, the kind of creative experience that Chip brings, to have Tom's background and his mentality and his approach and vision for what this position in particular, but just in competing in general is all about. Again, it isn't nothing new to me to say this to you. You're either competing or you're not. You got to use everything that's available to you, and so I'm certainly going to try to be the champion of all of that.
We got a situation, when the bullets start flying, let's say it's the day one free agency or you're on the clock in the draft. Within that process, how does that work in live time? Let's say, maybe you and Spytek think different things, or you and Kelly think different things. How do you work those things out when it's 10 minutes that you have to make a decision?
Yeah. Hopefully really well by laying the groundwork and being really clear on how we communicate and expectations of our communications, and where there's there aren't these preconceived concerns or issues, or guys afraid to say something to me. I need the guys to be loyal is to say the stuff that somebody else may not want to hear, but you need to tell them because you feel it in your heart. It needs to be said, and then you deal with the ramifications or the repercussions of it. And so I'm trying to convince my guys in all aspects of our staff and support system that we need to hear from you. We need to hear what you think, and don't be afraid to say it. If you don't say it and you hold something back and we miss out on an opportunity, that ain't competing, and so there's an overriding thought here that guides what we're doing. And so it's a race right now because we don't have a lot of time together, and so that's why it's nonstop. And then I have to listen and watch and speak my piece too, so we can all get on the same page as soon as possible. But if the spirit, now we're going to deal with the spirit of that thought and the actuality of it. We'll see how we do, but the spirit is we're going to work together, and everybody's going to draw from all of the strengths we can possibly generate. And I don't know any other way to do it than that way. So hopefully we do. Like I said, we'll do that really well. It's harder early when you have less background information, all that for sure.
When you were in Seattle, you guys went through a few quarterbacks those first couple of years. Then you go out and sign a Matt Flynn, and you draft a Russell Wilson that same year, and lo and behold, the rookie ends up starting over the guy that you signed in free agency. Does that change at all? Like that kind of mentality of, hey, if you go out and get somebody in free agency and you draft a rookie, and
because it's about the competition. What we did is we took a look at every day of practice that we had building up to the first game of the season, and we looked at every highlighted day the preseason games, and we had every single day mapped out. We wrote in that situation, we rotated the 3 guys that were battling for the job every day, and different guy was the starter. And knowing that by the time we got to the 3rd preseason game in Kansas City, that was when I wanted to make the decision if we could, so that going into the 4th game we would at least have our quarterback and ready to go. And it didn't matter where the guys came from or what their background was. If we did it properly and we really believed in what we were saying and we were going to stand for what we were saying, then we'd make the evaluation and hopefully it would work out. It did. And unfortunately it wasn't great for the for everybody, because somebody loses out on the competition, but it worked out for our club, and it worked out famously.
We've seen what your teams would look like when you've been a head coach other places. What is a John Spytek and Pete Carroll led team with the Raiders? What does that look like? What are the non-negotiables?
Yeah, you should see a team that plays with great effort. We start with effort. We critique effort first, because if you're not giving everything you got, what are you doing? What are you even in the program for? You're gonna see a team that plays with great enthusiasm and excitement for the game and love of the game. The passion shows up. You can feel their sense of love for what we're doing. And if the guys don't fit that, we're going to be looking for the guys that do fit that. We want a very physical team, very tough team. It's always been about great toughness on our club, and that comes in all different aspects, and it's highlighted by your special teams groups. Certainly what happens on defense, and by running the football as well. And then we got to be really smart, So the elements of it are really great effort, great enthusiasm, great toughness, and playing smart football. That's when you see us play. That I hope you walk away and that's what you say about us. And I don't really give a hoot about what anybody else thinks of us. That's what we're going to establish for ourselves, and if it matches up, it gives us a chance to get to the best that we have to offer. So it's a really clear outlook.
You mentioned us having a sense of urgency and trying to get the ball rolling immediately. How does that mindset dictate the team's approach and free agency, or how you think it will?
It should weigh into every single decision we make. We're trying to take it as far as we can, as soon as we possibly can. Why would we do anything but that? I'm not looking for any grace period or some kind of, cushy little, give me a few years to get it going. I don't think that way at all. I'm talking today, tomorrow, and we'll take it one step at a time. So, we'll see what happens.
But you talk about how much the team around the quarterback really needs to make sure that they help him out. Really building around him. But in your opinion, when you look at the quarterback position, what are the, non-negotiables when you look at that position and what he needs to do to help out the rest of his team?
He's got to do his job. He's got to do the job that he's called on to do. He doesn't need to carry the team. He doesn't need to be the answer to all problems. I don't see it that way, and I never have. It's you build a great football team around each position, and the quarterback happens to be one of them. And to do that well, we have to put people in positions to do what they're good at, and so that we have to uncover what that is, and create the role, make it really clear and understand where they understand it, and then bring it to life through the preparation process of it all. I said this earlier about Coach Walsh said, the quarterback position is the hardest position in professional sports to play, and in that you have to do everything you can to make it easier on the quarterback by running the football, by playing defense, by kicking the ball well, by taking care of the football, by protecting him as well. The running game helps protect the quarterback from pass rush so that he can do his job at the best of his capability. And wherever that takes us, if we get that done, we're going to be pretty hard to beat. That's just the way I've come to understand it.
Talking to people who've played for you, you're an interesting dichotomy. You're a player's coach, but you're a no-nonsense disciplinarian. That is extremely difficult. How are you able to be that way? Have you evolved it?
Extremely difficult.
Okay. You just don't see it a lot then.
Well, one of the keys to our whole program will be relationships, and so that's a paramount part of everything, because I need to find out who these guys are, and I need to figure out what they're capable of being, and I can't do that if I don't communicate with them. I don't look at them, watch them, see them, listen to them, and then the challenge is just to put them in positions to do what they do really well. And if you do that, then you have a chance to maximize whatever your team is. And that's a performance model mentality. It's building for the staff and all that. We can only be as good as we can be, but we need to get as good as we can be. And so we can't do that till we know who we're dealing with, and so we can communicate with them really well and all that. And then you don't have a chance at finding your limits unless you have great standards and principles that you build your program on. And so the expectations are as high as you could possibly get. We want to be the best practicing team in the game of football. And so that's because practice is everything. It's where you make yourself. It's where you make your team come to life. So you have to practice with the effort and the enthusiasm and the toughness that I talked about. And if you don't do it smart, then you're screwing it up, So so I don't know how you figure out how that sounds to you about the dichotomy or whatever, but if we're not having fun, then we're missing the whole boat. This is football. We play football, So with all of that said, that's what this program is going to exemplify, and we'll see how far that takes us.
Pete, this is a team that won 4 games last year, but they also lost a bunch of close games. When you look at the tape, and I know it's going to look different, come training camp OTAs, and it's not going to be the same team, but when you did look at the tape, do you see a starting point, like a foundation of a team that can...
Yeah, there's all kinds of assets here, and we got to get our guys back in. We have a number of free agents that we have to retain, and that's important. They have big roles to fill and play. We got to make some really great decisions business-wise, get some stuff done. We got to get Max all squared away, and some really important aspects of the team have to come together. But they're going to have to compete their butt off to make this thing move forward. It didn't work out quite right last year. I could give a rat's ass about last year. I don't care about that one bit. What happened, those games, those matchups, they mean nothing. It's what are we going to do with the next step we take? And so be really clear about that, and we're going to need all those guys to help us, that have been there before. And that don't discount the hunger and the passion that they feel for wanting to do something that they're proud of. There's great power in that, and so we're going to try to capture that and feed off of that, and meanwhile try to wear their ass out every chance I get.
I know it's early in the process, but what's your handle on the quarterback class of this draft class?
It's really interesting. It's a diverse group. Where they all go and all that remains to be seen and all, but there's a very talented group and that's done a lot of winning, a lot of high production and a lot of style to the quarterbacks that are in this group. It's not obvious, past a couple guys, what's going to happen, but there's going to be guys throughout the ranks of this class that get chosen that are going to be star players, and they've already proven that, so it's up to the teams to get them, to put them in position to be successful, I think, and it's harder than it sounds.
With that being said, how I don't want to say beneficial is it that these guys go to different universities, get more games under their belt, they get more reps, get different styles? How much can that help them prepare them for the league?
Everything counts. Everything counts and helps. The guys that have been limited somewhat, in their systems, or all the signaling systems and no cadence and not under center and stuff like that, that can hamper them early on. It can be picked up, and you can regain that in quick order. But it's a legitimate issue, and so we have to see if guys can transition. This time of their development for this upcoming season is enormously valuable to them if they've been in those systems that have been kind of really on one end of the spectrum. So, but the more games, the better. The more playtime, the better. And getting a 21-year-old guy versus a 24-year-old guy, there's a difference there, to some extent. And so, it's just time logged. I mean, you look at all the young guys that struggle early. It's like the young coaches that struggle early, like I did. You need the experience, you need the time. Time to task is so valuable, and when we watch the guys that emerge after they kind of look like they didn't make it and failed, and here comes Sam Darnold putting together a year like he had. The guys would think maybe he was long gone. And Geno Smith, was in our program. He was out for 4 years. He didn't play. And then when he came back, he's comeback player of the year, and a great competitor in his position. There's all kinds of stories here, and Remember, Vinny Testaverde's one of the great ones. Steve Young, another great story. You guys remember how bad Steve was early on. He was lousy, man. And then he wins Super Bowls and stuff, all-timer Hall of Famer, so there's a lot that goes into this.
What's been your early evaluation of the trenches in your roster, both O-line and D-line? What you've seen when you look at your roster?
Yeah, we've got a young group on the offensive line with an opportunity to be really formidable. DJ did well for his first year, and JPJ, got some play time in center and guard. Parham has got, of course, you get, Cole Miller out there at left side, which gives us some stability too. That's a really interesting group, really anxious to see Malcolm come back to us and see Christian, get another run at it. He didn't get a great shot to get going last year, and they'll have to work their tails off to stay up with Max. So there's some. The trenches can be a really good part of our team, and we're counting on that. If we will not be able to run the football like we want to if those guys up front can't hold up their end of it. So you haven't seen the best of these guys. They're just getting started.
You mentioned analytics at the podium. You guys hired Mark Hughes. I'm not sure exactly if his role includes that, but how are you guys planning on investing in analytics and kind of incorporating that in what you do, not just as a coaching staff?
We're going to stand for a cutting-edge approach in everything that we're doing, from the ownership, Tom, on down. And so we're evaluating everything right now.
On a personal note, how excited are you as a dad to have your sons with you?
Oh, this is important. It's important to me. I mentioned up there about structuring the staff, and I needed guys that have been with me, that can carry the message and that can kick my ass when I need it to know what I need to know. I wanted guys that had never been around us at all, so that we could, the enthusiasm, the excitement that comes from them learning who we are and how we operate, and that obligation that guys that have been with me have to take on as they introduce who we are and what we're all about, and then guys that have been on the staff before, and to get Tom McMahon's group back, and that's a great group for us, really important group for us, and to nail it on defense, with Patrick and Robbie, those guys have a lot to offer us too, because of the continuity they can generate, help us generate. So, but to have both my guys now, they will tell me what I need to hear when I maybe not want to hear it, and that's what loyalty is all about. And we can't afford to miss, or sidestep when people are getting to know each other. We got to get going, and so it's a great factor that we've added to the staff.
You mentioned